I am live. It is Tuesday, the 21st of November, and I'm reading out of Return to Elysium. It is the life of Joan Grant as Lucina in 2nd century BC, Greece and Rome. She's in Rome now. We are at chapter 9, NIGELLUS. Everything is uploaded on my YouTube and BitChute. Salonius was so flattered at the first tribute sent to him by NIGELLUS that he agreed to allow me to buy Iris and Lucina and Lucius. I made it clear that I would only work with slaves who owed personal allegiance to me. Excuse me. And for the moment, he was more than content with my abilities. I concealed the fact that I had granted them freedom. It would be time enough when they left Rome. I should be sorry to lose the company of Iris, and a quarrel is an astringent balm, not without a quality of healing. Iris, however, showed a sense of the realities which I had not suspected in her. She wished to marry Lucius, but not until she became pregnant, a condition which, judging by the way they looked at each other, I thought unlikely to be long delayed. Part of me dreaded her going. The rest looked forward to the time when I should be spared a constant reminder that, though I had had a measure of devotion and more awe than I could digest, I had never been loved as a woman. It is easy to despise women so long as one is clever enough to refrain from being envious, and perhaps it was not so clever as I thought. NIGELLUS was coming to hear my verdict on the 7th day. I had often told people of the futility of trying to speed or to delay the natural passage of time, and now I learned that it is easier to give advice than to use it. I told myself that it was natural to look forward to telling a senator how easily a woman had solved a problem which had been too difficult for him. But I was not really deceived. I arranged the flowers slowly, discarding roses and then salvias, in favor of flowering pomegranate in alabaster jars. I selected a Greek wine for which Epicurus had paid a ridiculous sum, which now seemed reasonable, and Portia made a poem of infant lobsters chilled with snow. Surely it was coincidence that the Macedamian goldsmith had come to the villa with a necklace and wreath jewelled with emeralds, which would have been foolish to ignore. Ornaments had never been interesting, no more than part of a necessary facade which I accepted as due to a certain role, knowing always that it was no more than a role. But these emeralds were exciting, green as the moss in a secret grove when lovers are remembered. Iris was ashamedly glad to be told that I should not need her. I even preferred to choose my dress alone. The white dress with silver ribbons, too young for a priestess, so I had never worn it. "You look beautiful tonight," I said aloud, secure that Iris had already left to wait for Lucius. "You look beautiful, at least in this city, where the women are often dark and overplump." "I'm sure Julia's fat," I added, suddenly defensive. "Fat because she's too lazy to think, too cowardly to find each day a new adventure. Such women deserve to be thrown back into the battle for security, to lose the things of which they had forgotten the value." I heard myself humming a tune on 4 notes. The tune a goathead had played while a child listened. The sound was like cold water on the face of a sleeper. I was deliberately reverting to childhood, to the time when I could act without consideration, when I dared to feel instead of guiding my emotions as a charioteer controls the quadriga on which his life depends. I felt suddenly cynical, and not a little foolish. "Lucina," I said, and sounded very like Salonius in a difficult mood, "surely you have sufficient intelligence to be aware of your motives. Narcissus told you that no one would be such a fool as to wish to be your lover. You are lonely, and so have a pitiable vulnerability. The role of a mistress would be both unbecoming and ridiculous. The role of a matron, dull in the extreme and a deliberate discarding of your talents. NIGELLUS is only another man, of whom you have seen so many in their childish incompetence, wailing for something to add to their pathetic faith in their importance. They come to you when their mothers and their wives and their mistresses no longer provide them with sufficient material to shore up the tottering edifice of their self-worship. You've seen many women weep because the men they thought were gods had proved themselves only men. You have been sorry for them, and always a little scornful, Are you such a fool that a taunt from Narcissus is enough to drive you to their shared disaster? The branches of pomegranate were no more than a device of interlaced shadows, the emeralds only a green stone in an ornate setting. Tonight was only another of the marks by which time is measured, to be endured with wit, with the evaluation of experience, with loneliness which pride had burnished from the tarnish of dependence. The snow had melted in the bowl, the wine jug was half empty. I had played the charming aloof hostess, to whom the powers of the mystic were only a further accomplishment. Because I had made no claims, NIGELLUS was ready to believe that the change in Marcus, his sudden dislike of the Greek with whom he had been infatuated, was due to some supernatural influence. I was credited with being a foster child of the blind fates, whose word would change the threads of destiny. I would be no more than a memory to NIGELLUS. I was secure that the living frieze I had designed was not within my capacity to improve. It only reminded to think of suitable words with which to ease the moment of his dismissal. You have given my son back to me, he said. The boy is hurt and angry, but the hurt will soon heal, the anger cool. I shall never cease to remember what I owe to beneficiary powers. I'm so ignorant. I'm too ignorant to understand. He put his hand on my arm, the long fingers gently against my skin. I shall never forget what I owe you, Lucina, he said. You're not my debtor, I said passionately. If you let yourself believe you owe me anything, you will hate me. You are not beholden for anything, It is no debt. Is it no debt when a man who is old in delusion has been given back his dreams? Is the senator not content with reality? Since I was 18, I have never known reality, if that be the sanctuary which cannot be destroyed by the living dead. Perhaps I always knew that circumstances would be too strong for my secret world. Is Julia part of that world, or one of the living dead? He looked puzzled. I forgot that I told you my wife's name, or did you discover it through your finer intuition? Without waiting for me to reply, he went on, the words urgent as a spring long sealed. When I was a young man, I thought I should find a woman to whom I could be everything, as she would be to me. I had watched my mother and father grow into a pattern of hatred that was limned on a background of expediency with a brush of painful civility. The great house in Rome was part of the background, the slaves a chorus, too well disciplined to chant the real theme of this petty drama. A sum of money was left to me by an uncle. With it, I bought a small property in Umbria, concealing the purchase even from my closest friends. There's a white house hidden in an ilex grove. I thought there I would find love and simplicity, free of the cold conventions of this city, alight with a generous kindliness unknown to matrons. I welcomed my betrothal to Julia. She was slender, beautiful, in the Roman fashion. I told her of my hill sanctuary and thought to take her there, but her father gave us a villa by the sea. She made me understand that it would be foolish to offend paternal authority, squalid to bathe in a forest pool instead of with a proper attendance, undignified to be content with the service of an old freeman and his wife, when we had 20 slaves given by her mother as marriage gift. We went to the villa sometimes. I wonder if Julia found the same thorns among the yellow roses with which our rooms were so carefully embellished. We have both followed the roles designed for us in an ignorant affection by our parents. I am a senator, as was my father. Julia is among the matrons whose verdicts ruled her as a young child. She has found it easy to barter dreams for authority. But I shall never forgive her, because she taught me that bays are more heavy than the lead with which a sarcophagus is sealed. You wanted power, NIGELLUS. You could not cease to fear your father until you had more than his authority. You thought you wanted a girl who would let you forget your obligations. But the pattern you had chosen was stronger than yourself. The wife of the senator is Julia. It is fair to hate her because she was not strong enough to make you change the aim of your ambition. You think that even with another woman I should be only senator? While you still lusted for power, you would never have been satisfied with a bread which could not ease that special hunger. Have you ever been hungry? The senator.